Hey everyone, Matt here from Dukes Models. Now, it's been several days since voting wrapped up on the first round of the contributor-funded kit reviews, and I realized that things have gone a bit radio silent since then, mainly for two reasons. First, I've been completely snowed under with work, a lot of late nights, even over the weekend, which was a blast. And on top of that, there just hasn't really been anything to update on. I'm currently in the process of sourcing that 1/32nd scale Fly Hurricane that just dominated the voting. Matthew Bohl of Hobby World USA is getting one for me, but there was a distributor snafu. The kit that was supposed to show up yesterday didn't. It won't be in until Friday, probably in my hands early next week. So once it's in my hands, the review is going to get underway, like that. Until then, not much we can really do. As soon as I have an invoice in my hands for that kit, and we got a nice screaming deal on it, thanks to good old Matthew Bohl, I will be sharing that invoice on the fundraiser page and on the blog and all the various places, to keep transparency going, show where every dollar, every cent of the contributions goes. So again, a lot of stuff sort of waiting on it to arrive. Once it does, that will be underway. Now, I also want to talk about two things that are coming up. So the first of them is round 2 of the kit selection process, which is still a few weeks out. I want to kind of get the first review underway as a proof of concept and all that sort of stuff before I really start pouring on the gas for more reviews. However, if you have any kits that have come out over the last few months or will be coming out over the next month or two that you really want to see reviewed, by all means, leave a comment, send me an email, all the various ways of contact, send me a message on Facebook, and I'll start building that list. I've already got a few that I want to throw in there. Tacom's T55s look pretty interesting. I think the Kitty Hawk 6-piece fuselage Super Étendard would be, and I'm butchering the pronunciation of that, so I'm just going to call it the Super E. But the Kitty Hawk Super E would be interesting, especially in sort of a head-to-head matchup with the Kinetic kit that came in second in the first round of voting. And of course, those kits that cleared that 30 vote threshold the first time around will also be making a reappearance. So the Kinetic Super E, the Eduard BF109 G6, the Meng Shilka, and I believe it was the Airfix Meteor, but I'm not positive. But several of them are rolling through to the next round, so they will be there, along with any other new-ish things. Again, any new kits that you want to see thrown into that mix, by all means, let me know, and they will, assuming that they meet all the criteria, it's not a limited edition that's just a repop of something else, assuming that it's relatively recent in terms of a release, it will make that list. Now, the last thing I want to touch on is, again, for round 2 and moving forward, I'm going to be switching up the way that voting works just a little bit in order to address a few, I guess I would say, snags that I've noticed either, in comments or just in my own watching the votes roll in, and shut up, compressor, and thinking about how they work. Don't freak out about this. This isn't going all dictatorial or anything. $1 is still going to equal 1 vote. I want to keep that sort of sense of ownership with these reviews going. The points of concern that I want to address are, first, people who are afraid to really get on board this effort because they feel like their voice or their contribution won't be heard, and they will be essentially funding reviews for kits that they're not interested in. Totally get it. Well, you're probably not going to see cars or ships reviewed here. Various scales, armor versus aircraft, that stuff is certainly valid. So I think it's important that if you contribute, you have a voice, and that voice, not be shunted into some sort of mob-directed 1/32nd scale brouhaha every month. So that is heard, that is being worked on. Also, I want to set up a situation where it's not the same people dominating the vote over and over and over again. So if you get your way and you really want to see the Fly Hurricane or the Kinetic Super E reviewed, and you get your way, that's awesome. There needs to be some sort of mechanism to make sure that you don't get to dictate, every single month. And granted, there's enough diversity of votes. I don't think that's all that huge of an issue, but it's something to consider. lastly, this idea of when do votes expire. With the first round of voting, I sent out, something vague around it. You can continue voting in subsequent selection rounds for, the given future, and that's not very precise, and it kind of sucks for somebody who comes in maybe in July and okay, so they get to vote too, but they're already swamped under, whereas these other people who've been voting since April have had a few months of heightened influence because there maybe weren't as many contributors. So how does that work? How do votes sort of fall off over time? What's the expiration date for votes, etc.? All of these three concerns are forming a sort of core of how do we shift up the voting, the way that votes maybe get used up over time. Now, I'm not quite ready to share the particulars of what that is going to look like. I've got a pretty good model in my head of what it's going to be, but it's just complicated enough to where if I were to spout it out here, people would be going, "What the hell is this? Math, blah blah blah." Totally get it. So once I have that all wrapped up in a neat bow, I will be sharing it. I think everybody will be happy with it. It's extremely fair. It still preserves that sense of ownership over these reviews, but it ensures that there's sort of fresh blood over time at the same time. So that will be coming. The next round of kit selection will be coming before too much longer, and the review of the Fly Hurricane will also be kicking off as well. Probably, box open sometime around this time next week. Pictures will be shared throughout, etc. Please understand that the video portion of that will take longer just because there will be a substantial amount of shooting, editing, all those things involved. But I promise to be as transparent as possible in what's going on, where the process is at, when to expect these reviews to start landing. So that's it. That's my update. I will keep you all posted as the kit arrives, all that kind of stuff. And until then, happy modeling. Talk to y'all later.